Okay, now that we know how to find the slope of different lines, now we have to talk about how you use the slope to tell if lines are parallel or perpendicular. So we know, first of all, parallel is when the lines don't touch and they look like this, and perpendicular is when they touch and they make 90-degree angles. It is not enough just to say they touch, they also have to make 90-degree angles. That's why I put the little box up there. So just by looking at the slope, you can tell if two lines are parallel if they have the same slope or equal slopes. So if they told me, oh, the slope of one of the lines is -4, and you want to say, well, what's the slope parallel to that? It's going to be the exact same number, so -4. Whatever the other one slope is, that's what the other one is. Not counting. It's exactly the same. For perpendicular lines, they have to have a flip and switch slope. So what that means is you're going to take the number and you're going to flip the fraction. Okay. And you're going to switch the sign. It starts with S. Here we go. So here's my fraction, -8/3. So if I want perpendicular to that, I'm going to flip it. It was 8 on top, 3 on the bottom. So I'm going to flip it so that 3 is on top, 8 on the bottom. And I'm switching the sign. Before, this fraction was negative. So I'm going to switch it. So now it's +3/8. And then I would say that those two slopes are perpendicular. Okay? So that's how you can tell. If your slope is a whole number, like let's say it was 6, great. How do I flip it when it's just a whole number? Well, to make a whole number, you gotta turn it into a fraction. How do I turn it into a fraction? Is you put it over 1. So that's only if you have whole numbers. So then when I would flip that, that would turn into 1/6. It was positive before, now it's negative. So then those are perpendicular. And then intersecting lines. Intersecting lines just means that they're not parallel, which means they are going to touch, but they don't make right angles. So they would just look like this. So intersecting lines have no relationship. They're not the exact same slope, and they're not flip and switch slope. So like 2 and -2. Yes, they switched the sign, but they didn't flip the fraction. So there is no relationship between these two slopes. So here we go. How do we actually use this in a question? So it says line A has a slope of -3. Line B has a slope of 1/3. Are lines A and B parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting, and why? So here's my slopes. I got 3 and 1/3. Parallel would be if they're the same. Perpendicular is the flip and switch. And then intersecting is neither of them. That says none. Hopefully that says none. Okay, so I'm going to flip and switch -3. Obviously I can tell these numbers are not the same. Hopefully everybody can tell that. But I'm going to flip and switch -3. So -3, when I flip it, well, it's a whole number, so I got to make it a fraction. Now I'm flipping it, so now whatever was on the top is now on the bottom. So now 1's on top, 3's on the bottom. The sign was negative. Now it's positive. Does that match the other one that they gave you? Yes. So if I was going to answer this question, I would be writing that they are perpendicular. And it also said why. And you're going to write because the slopes are flipped and switched. Okay? That's how you tell. I just look at the slopes. Let's look at the last one. It's a similar question. It says line A has a slope of -3/4. Line B goes through the points -3, -2, and 6, 10. Are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting? So first of all, we know parallel is the same. Perpendicular is flip and switch. And then intersecting is none of those. So So first of all, one of the slopes we know is 3, -3 over 4. Great. The other slope, do I know the other slope? No, but they gave me those 2 points. So I'm going to write those points down. -3, comma, -2, and 6, comma, 10. Okay, so what am I going to do with these points? Well, I'm going to find the slope. The only way I can tell if they are parallel, perpendicular, or intersecting is by knowing the slopes. So I need to find the slope. How do I find the slope between 2 points? Well, I'm going to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And like we learned, oh, we got to label our points. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to plug them in. So I got 10 minus -2, and then 6 minus -3. And I'm going to type this into Desmos, just like that. So, where's my calculator? Well, I'm going to start by making a fraction. So let me clear. How do I do that? Clear all. So to get the fraction to show up, we're typing a over b on the top. Then I'm going to do 10 minus -2. And then click on the bottom is when I do 6 minus -3. Enter. Oh, I got this ugly decimal, so I want to convert it back to a fraction, so I push that button. And it gives me 4 over 3. So 4 over 3. So let's look. Here is my one slope that they gave me. This is the slope I just figured out. Are they the same? No. Are they flipped and switched? Well, this has 4 on the top, 3 on the bottom, so that flipped. This was negative, this one's positive. It did switch, so it should be the flip and switch. So for my answer, I would write they're perpendicular because their slopes are flipped and switched. And I know that's like right on top of all my beautiful work. Where can I put this? Down here? Sure. Okay. So go back and watch the video if you need to. Otherwise, go ahead and start the next activity.